There's a certain type of person who rises higher, moves faster, and achieves more than everyone around them. The kind of person who turns obstacles into opportunities, who doesn't just dream, they execute, they adapt, they elevate. These people don't succeed because they're lucky, gifted, or born with advantages most others don't have. They succeed because they think differently, operate differently, and respond to life differently. And the difference between a high achiever and the average person begins long before the success becomes visible. It begins in the mind. Most people move through life with a mindset shaped by fear, comfort, and habit. High achievers move through life with a mindset shaped by clarity, purpose, and intentional action. This difference in thinking creates a difference in behavior, and that difference in behavior creates a difference in results. So today, we're breaking down how high achievers view the world, themselves, challenges, and opportunities, and how those distinctions allow them to climb far beyond the crowd. The first major difference is responsibility. High achievers take full ownership of their lives. They don't blame their circumstances, family, past mistakes, environment, or luck. They don't outsource their future to anyone or anything. When something goes wrong, they ask, "What can I do about it?" Not, "Why is this happening to me?" This shift alone separates them from the average person, because most people spend their lives waiting for their situation to change. High achievers aren't waiting, they're creating. They understand that responsibility is not blame. It's power. It's the gateway to control. When you own your life, you also own the ability to change it. Another key difference is how high achievers view failure. Most people fear failure. They hide from it. They treat it like proof that they're not capable. But high achievers know that failure isn't a verdict, it's feedback. It's information. It's a stepping stone, not a wall. They analyze what happened, adjust their approach, and move forward better than before. While the average person stops at the first sign of difficulty, high achievers see difficulty as part of the process. They expect it, prepare for it, and grow through it. That's why they can attempt things others never dare to try, because their self-worth isn't tied to perfection. It's tied to persistence. Another powerful distinction is how high achievers set goals. Most people set goals based on what feels realistic, safe, and comfortable. High achievers set goals based on what feels meaningful, challenging, and transformative. Their goals aren't about maintaining who they are, they're about becoming who they can be. They don't ask, "Can I do this?" They ask, "What must I become to make this possible?" And that question is what drives their evolution. High achievers are builders. They build habits, discipline, skills, and identity around the life they want. They stretch themselves intentionally because they understand that comfort never created greatness. Another major difference lies in their standards. While the average person operates at the level of minimum requirements, high achievers operate at the level of personal excellence. They don't do the bare minimum, they exceed it. They don't look for shortcuts, they look for mastery. They don't compete with others, they compete with the highest version of themselves. Their standards dictate their behavior, and because their standards are high, their outcomes naturally follow. High achievers don't wait to feel motivated to act, they act because their standards demand it. And discipline becomes part of their identity, not an occasional habit. High achievers also think differently about time. For most people, time is something to be consumed, killed, wasted, passed. But for high achievers, time is currency. It's an investment. It's a resource that determines the quality of their future. They don't casually give it away to distractions, drama, or empty habits. They're intentional with their hours because they know that small choices compound into massive outcomes. They protect their time with boundaries because they understand that who they become depends on how they spend their days. Another difference is focus. Most people let their attention scatter across dozens of priorities, tasks, worries, and distractions. High achievers operate with precision. They focus deeply on what matters, ignore what doesn't, and eliminate what slows them down. They understand that energy is finite. So instead of chasing everything, they chase the right things. They cut out noise, limit interruptions, and build routines that support their concentration. They move with purpose because they refuse to dilute their potential across meaningless activities. This is why high achievers accomplish more with the same number of hours everyone else has. They simply focus better. High achievers also think differently about learning. Most people stop learning when the world stops requiring it. High achievers continue learning even when no one is watching. They read, practice, study, reflect, and seek knowledge every single day. They know that the mind is a tool, and the sharper it becomes, the further it takes them. They're willing to be beginners, they're willing to ask questions, they're willing to admit what they don't know, and because of this, they grow at a rate the average person can't keep up with. High achievers don't need to be the smartest, they just need to keep growing, and growth outperforms genius over time. Another powerful distinction is how high achievers approach effort. For the average person, effort feels like a burden, something to avoid or minimize. But for high achievers, effort is the path to freedom. They don't run from hard work, they run toward it. They recognize that the more capable they become, the more choices they gain in life. They don't see effort as suffering, they see it as transformation. And because they embrace effort instead of resisting it, they experience breakthroughs others never reach. Another critical difference lies in identity. Most people define themselves by their past, their failures, their mistakes, their history. High achievers define themselves by their potential, by who they can become, not who they used to be. They stand on the future, not the past. They act in alignment with the identity they're building, not the identity they're leaving behind. This identity shift changes everything. When your identity grows, your habits follow. When your habits change, your results transform. High achievers also think differently about opportunity. Most people wait for opportunity. High achievers create opportunity. They don't wait for perfect conditions, they act on imperfect ones. They don't wait for permission, they give themselves permission. They don't wait for inspiration, they generate it through discipline. They see opportunity everywhere because they believe they can influence outcomes. And that belief alone separates them from the crowd. Another difference is emotional control. High achievers feel fear, doubt, pressure, and insecurity just like everyone else. But they don't allow emotions to dictate their decisions. They understand that emotions are temporary, but choices are long-term. They act based on principle, not impulse. They stay calm in chaos because they've trained their minds to remain grounded. While others spiral during challenges, high achievers analyze, adapt, and move strategically. Emotional mastery is one of their greatest strengths. High achievers also use problems differently than most people. While the average person sees problems as interruptions, high achievers see them as instructions. Problems tell them where to grow, what to fix, and how to improve. Problems don't stop high achievers, they shape them. They analyze problems like puzzles, looking for advantages hidden inside difficulties. This mindset allows them to turn setbacks into strategies and obstacles into advantages. High achievers also think differently about criticism. Most people crumble when criticized. They take it personally, shut down, or get defensive. High achievers examine criticism. They separate emotion from information. They use feedback like data. They understand that growth requires refinement, and refinement requires honesty. They don't let someone's opinion break them, they let it develop them. High achievers also think differently about discipline. Most people use discipline only when they feel inspired. High achievers use discipline, especially when they don't. They don't negotiate with excuses. They don't wait for the right moment. They don't let their mood decide their actions. Discipline is their default mode. And because they rely on discipline instead of motivation, they move forward consistently instead of occasionally. Another key difference is self-belief. Most people doubt themselves constantly. High achievers don't necessarily feel more confident, they simply choose to back themselves. They believe that even if they fail, they will figure it out. Even if they struggle, they will grow through it. Even if it takes longer than expected, they will find a way. Their belief isn't based on arrogance, it's based on commitment. And that belief gives them the courage to attempt things others never try. And finally, high achievers think differently about life itself. Most people see life as something happening to them. High achievers see life as something happening through them. They see themselves as creators, not passengers. They treat their potential as a responsibility, not an option. They move with purpose because they know the cost of wasting their capabilities. They don't fear the unknown, they fear a life where they never tried. So, when you look at high achievers and wonder what sets them apart, remember this: it's not their talent, resources, or luck. It's the way they think. The crowd thinks in limitations. High achievers think in possibilities. The crowd waits. High achievers act. The crowd hopes. High achievers build. The crowd repeats their past. High achievers create their future. If you want to rise above the crowd, you must first think above the crowd. And once you change your thinking, the behavior follows, and once the behavior changes, your entire life begins to transform.